Thank you, Gilbert. That was beautiful. What's the name? What was that?
Any kind of rain.
That was beautiful.
Indicator of snow.
Oh, right. Let us prepare for our invocation. If we'll become still and quiet and go within. Divine Creator, with whom we are one, we invoke your presence, your very presence, in today's service. That indwelling God, indwelling presence that's within each and every one of us. We know that divine spirit is flowing through us, as us, in us. We come with open minds and hearts as we receive your divine knowledge, your wisdom, and your truth. We bless and give thanks for everyone present here in the sanctuary, on Zoom, and on the phone. We bless all the participants in today's service, the musicians playing our beautiful music, the ushers, practitioners, computer tech, and our minister, Reverend Teresa Slusher. As she brings us today's message, we know that her words will resonate with us and expand our divine consciousness. And so I now decree this service to be in divine order. And if you're in agreement with me, please join me in saying, and so it is. Amen, amen, amen. Welcome to Miracle Center of Spiritual Living. Welcome one and all. We are located at 2653 South Taylor Road, Cleveland Heights, Ohio. This is a beautiful day, a beautiful snowy day. And why it's beautiful? Because God is, and we are here today. My name is Linda Jones. For those that don't know me, I'm your pulpit assistant for today. And I greet you in love and peace. The monthly theme for this month is cultivating authenticity. The weekly topic, boundaries build bridges. While physical boundaries can act as walls, when we communicate our boundaries instead of a wall, we are creating a clear path for others to connect with us. Our affirmation, sharing my boundaries build bridges to authentically connect with others. Let's just say that again together. Sharing my boundaries builds bridges to authentically connect with others. Our monthly theme summary, cultivating authenticity is not about becoming something other than who we are. Rather, it involves us in releasing those patterns of thought, attitudes, and actions that act as barriers to us standing in our personal truth and power. And by taking up this practice, we develop courage to be vulnerable, to stand in that truth. This month, we will explore parts of the practice for authentically living out loud. Science of mind point of view. The purpose of life is to express itself. And as spiritual beings, we are individualizations of source with our unique intentions, desires, and boundaries. There are different areas in which we have boundaries: physical, mental, emotional, energetic, and material boundaries. When we live as we lack boundaries, we unconsciously tell others that there is nothing of ours that we hold sacred, set aside for a purpose. We can feel that we exist for their use, and all is for the taking. Of course, we would stop someone from trying to do harm to our bodies or taking something of ours that do not belong to them. Yet, when we do not let them know what our limits are, we set ourselves up for a whole set of emotions, including resentment, betrayal, and anger. Fear that comes from a sense of unworthiness that somehow we do not deserve the space that we require can keep us quiet, even if we feel like a doormat. To live out loud invites us to share our relevant boundaries out loud. They're a part of our authentic expression of life. We are not creating boundaries where there are none. They already exist. We have not yet communicated them. Summary of today's topic: having clarity about our boundaries empowers us to know what is ours to be and do in the world. And until we communicate our boundaries and hold others accountable to them, we cannot expect others to honor them. We may not feel comfortable sharing them because of beliefs we have. It may feel selfish, or that we are being difficult, or even unspiritual. It is still our responsibility. Letting others know keeps us from being doormats and being stepped on. It creates bridges to others by giving them a path to connect with us. It also prevents others from stepping on landmines they didn't even know were there. Sharing our boundaries invites us to get to know one another better. And so it is. So now Reverend Teresa is coming with our message.
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that beautiful prayer.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for sharing with us the information that you so beautifully read to us. So boundaries, kind of scary to think about boundaries sometimes. But when we look at boundaries, it's where we end and the other begins. And this is according to Nancy Levin in her book, Setting Boundaries Will Set You Free. That's a pretty interesting concept. Setting boundaries will set you free. And she defines boundaries as a limit that you set to define what you will or will not do, or what you will or will not accept or tolerate from others. If we desire to express ourselves authentically, then it is really up to us to become familiar with and clarify these boundaries for ourselves and for others. Boundaries are the container in which our authentic, there's that word, Linda, authentic self resides. Boundaries do build bridges with others, however. And however, we need to communicate clearly what our boundaries are. Because the truth is, others cannot read our mind. And it is an assumption, a false assumption, that everyone knows this or that about me. Well, you know how I feel about that. The truth is, no, I don't know how you feel. And not knowing boundaries does not absolve us from our responsibility to communicate them. So we need to uncover and discover our boundaries and communicate them. It gives us an opportunity to practice courage and be vulnerable when we communicate our boundaries. And it is an authentic expression because we are sharing who we are rather than who we are not or who they think we might be. It gives us others a path to connect with us. So sharing is a communication that allows others to connect with us. Boundaries actually empower us. They let others see us, and boundaries let us know who we are. Boundaries are what enable us to serve our higher self, our divinity, and the one who gives us our breath and animates our bodies with dignity and respect. It is here that we can prioritize who we are and live out our mission here on earth. We all came here with a purpose, and that purpose is to live out our mission with clarity, respect, and honor. So the question I have for you is, are you a doormat or are you empowered? That's your choice. Are you fearful or are you a fearless bridge builder? Again, that is your choice. Now, keep in mind there's 3 ideas we might want to explore around boundaries. I call these discovery, communication, and creating a win-win. We want to approach bridge building honestly with kindness and wisdom. So firstly, discovery, right? We need to uncover and discover our boundaries. We don't make up our boundaries. We know what feels good and doesn't feel good. So we just simply need to uncover what our boundaries are by listening to our feelings. Feelings are simply just energy. We feel the rush of energy when we're excited, and we feel when we can trust a person. Or we might even feel low energy when we are disappointed, or maybe even feel unwelcomed. We might cower away. And we give our feelings emotional labels like anger, disappointment, trapped, or even on the positive side, such as receptive, amused, or bold. Just like our thoughts, our feelings guide and direct us. When we listen to our feelings, we can set our boundaries and stand tall in our skin as an empowered spiritual being having a human experience. Now, if we don't do this for ourselves, we are not able to let others know where we stand. And if we are not clear, we risk having unfulfilling relationships. We create confusion. We create lack and limitation in our connections and engagements with others. And we are disempowered and can't honestly hold others accountable if they don't know where we stand. When we share our boundaries, we let others know where we stand, we have removed the blame game from our experience. How dare you cross my path? Well, they didn't even know that they were in your path. So it's important to know your boundaries and share them and remove yourself from blaming them for the way your life is. In her book, The Gifts of Imperfection, Brene Brown states that when we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. She further states that this is why we sometimes attack who they are, which is far more hurtful than addressing a behavior or a choice. Just think about this for a few seconds. When we feel that someone crossed our line, we blame them for their actions. Their actions could have been completely innocent, simply because they were not clear about our expectations of them. And who's responsible for communicating what you want? So I invite you to think about some of your boundaries you have set for yourself. We set boundaries, of course, around our physical, that's obvious, our mental and emotional bodies. We also have boundaries around our time, our energy, and our material goods. And it never feels good when our limits are crossed without our consent. And when you don't feel good, it can help you to discover boundaries that you didn't even know you currently have. So let's just take a few moments to uncover some of your personal boundaries. And this will help us to embrace who you are. It is through compassionate self-discovery, however, sometimes journaling, and even conversations with others, heart-to-heart conversations with others who we trust, where we can get a clearer picture of what matters to us. and what our boundaries and limits are. So here's a few different areas to consider. On our physical boundary, that would be our bodies and personal space. For instance, we know that some people like hugs and others feel uneasy with the hug. It might be polite to ask, "May I hug you?" And or let people know that you don't like to be hugged. Let them know that so that you don't go through those uneasy feelings. And then our mental boundaries would be our thoughts, our ideas and opinions, and how we express our thoughts, ideas, and opinions. It's your whole personal thought process. You know, always seeing eye to eye with another person is not possible. Everyone has different experiences in their life, but you have the right to your own thoughts, values, beliefs, and opinions, and so do they. So it is important to give and receive respect when it comes to mental boundaries. And the truth is, what you think of me is none of my business. And then emotional. Our feelings and emotions, emotional boundaries, are not about going from feeling everything to feeling nothing. They're about finding a middle ground, a space where we can feel and respond lovingly to others' emotions without letting those emotions dictate our own realities. If someone's feeling anger, they can feel angry. We don't need to get upset at their anger. Their anger doesn't need to tell us how we need to respond or react. Give them that space, honor that feeling. Healthy emotional boundaries come from believing that you are okay just the way you are. And they're okay just the way they are too. So commit to letting go of fixing others or taking responsibility for the outcome of others' choices, trying to save or rescue someone, or let go of feelings of needing to be needed. You know, you don't need to change yourself in order to be liked, or you don't need to depend on another's approval. Healthy emotional boundaries include limitations on what to share and when not to share your personal information. For example, gradually sharing personal information during the development of a relationship as opposed to revealing everything to everyone. And everyone doesn't really want to know everything about you anyway. So just, be honest, be truthful, be heart to heart when you're developing your relationships, and be considerate of what you give verbally about yourself, and be considerate about what they share about themselves. And then we've got those material boundaries, what we claim as belonging to us, or what we feel we can entrust to our care, the stewardship, such as money and personal possessions. Healthy material boundaries involve setting limits on what you will share with others. We don't want to just give our money away to everybody. It may be appropriate to lend a car to a family member, but probably not to someone you met just this morning. And then energetic boundaries. Think about this: our time and energy needs. Know when you need rest and self-care. Also, an energetic boundary is like an invisible layer of skin around our soul and emotional body that helps us to define where we begin and end in relation to another. This self-awareness helps us to monitor our energy level, recognize when our authentic self is being violated, and to discern what kind of relational dynamics and physical boundaries best serve our well-being and mental health. So again, Brene Brown, and she's a social psychology researcher, she believes that the most compassionate people that she has interviewed, because she's done a lot of interviewing, happen to be the most boundaried. So people that she finds to be most compassionate happen to be the most boundaried. They happened to be the people who had very, very clear boundaries about what they were willing to do and what they were willing not to do, what they were willing to take on and what they were not willing to take on. And then we've got our spiritual boundaries, and these would be yours to honor, knowing what you require for your spiritual health, your spiritual growth and vitality can support you in your self-care in this area. So taking time to become familiar with your limits, your non-negotiables, is another method of self-discovery. Once you know where you are at, from there you can create new boundaries and communicate them with others. So of course, the second idea around boundaries is communication. Communicating our boundaries may be new, especially if we've been taught to place ourselves second to others. Communicating our boundaries may feel difficult and scary, but like any skill, it will get easier the more you do it. Without writing, well, here's an idea. Writing out what you want to say and practicing it can actually help you feel more confident in letting someone know, preparing yourself to communicate to them what your boundaries are. And besides, we all know no one person is a complete mind reader. Even if you're psychic, no one can completely read another's mind. Not one person can know what we think and feel unless we tell them. And this is true for everyone. I don't know what you think and feel unless you tell me. Now, I can assume by the look on your face, unless you have a good poker face, and I can suppose I know, but unless you really tell me honestly, I really don't know. And because others cannot read your mind, again, it's just a false assumption that everyone knows your boundaries. We have a responsibility to communicate them. Clear communication of our boundaries is an authentic expression of who we are, because we are sharing who we are rather than who we are not. And this communication gives others a path to connect with us authentically. Now, avoidance may feel easier, but there are consequences once boundaries have been crossed. There is the natural reaction to push back. How dare them? And that brings with it many other emotions like that anger, resentment, and maybe a little bit of hostility. So deciding to be brave, courageous, and ask for what you need may not get us the results we hope for. It may not. Because this is being a new or constant conversation, it may feel to them like you are putting limits on the relationship. But go into it with love, because these boundaries were always there, but you just didn't know until now that they even existed, and neither did they. And if expressing your authentic self with someone is a problem for them, it may be time to evaluate your boundaries around how willing you are to tolerate people who do not respect your boundaries. Ernest Holmes writes in his book, This Thing Called You, on page 60, you rob no person when you discover your own good. You limit no person when you express a greater degree of livingness. You hinder no person's evolution when you consciously enter into the kingdom of your good and possess it today. We would not feel guilty if a friend asked us for change and we did not have any cash on us. So we should not feel guilty for saying no. To give what you do not have to give robs yourself and creates resentment. The word no, N-O, is a complete sentence. In practicing no when you don't feel like doing something you don't want to do, see what happens. And know, K-N-O-W, know your values. Taking a personal inventory of your strengths and personal limitations empowers you to live in alignment, to live authentically. Knowing your values and limitations helps us to say yes to our yeses and no to our nos. When we live out loud, when we show up authentically, we honor and respect ourselves. When we honor and respect ourselves, we can honestly honor and respect others. So be clear and know yourself and be honest. No is exactly what it means. So say what you mean. If you need to say no, say no. It is your right, and it creates healthy boundaries. It is healthy. No is a complete sentence that does not require explanation. You don't need to explain to someone why you say no. And that is the third thing that I wanted to share with you, is that no means no. And when we say yes, yes means yes. When we are not clear on our yeses and nos, we compromise our comfort in order to please someone. We all know people pleasers. Or we give in to something we don't want. It is our authentic self that is disrespected. And in many situations, it is we that are the ones that are crossing our own boundaries. So honoring our own boundaries is an act of self-love that cultivates our authenticity. When we say no to one thing, we say yes to something else. By clarifying our limits, we are making space for us to live out loud. Now, there's a story I want to share with you. It was written years ago by a man by Shel Silverstein. You may have heard of it. It's titled The Giving Tree. It's about a tree and a little boy. And the tree loved the little boy, and every day the boy would come and he would gather the tree's leaves and make them into crowns and play king of the forest. He would climb up her trunk and swing from her branches and eat her apples. And they would play hide and seek. And when he was tired, he would sleep in her shade, and the boy loved the tree very much, and the tree was happy. But time went by and the boy grew older, and the tree was often just left alone in the forest. Then one day the boy came to the tree and said to the tree, "I want to come and climb up your trunk and swing in your branches and eat apples and play in my shade and be happy. That was me when I was little, but I'm too big to climb and play now. I want to buy things and have fun. I want some money." So the tree said, "I'm sorry, but I have no money. I only have leaves and apples." The tree said, "Take my apples, boy, and sell them in the city. Then you will have money and you will be happy." And so the boy did climb up the tree and gathered the apples and carried them away, and the tree was happy. And the boy stayed away for a very long time, and the tree again was sad. And then one day the boy came back and the tree shook with joy, and she said, "Boy, come climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and be happy." And the boy said, "I'm too busy to climb trees. I want a house to keep me warm. I want a wife and I want children. And so I need a house. Can you give me a house?" The tree said, "I have no house. The forest is my house, but you may cut off my branches and build a house. Then you will be happy." And so the boy cut off the branches and carried them away to build his house, and the tree was happy. Well, the boy stayed away again for a very long time, and when he came back, the tree was happy, and she could hardly speak. She was so happy, so she said in a whisper, "Boy, boy, come and play." And the boy said, "Oh, I'm too old and sad to play. I want a boat now that will take me away from here. Can you give me a boat?" Well, the tree said, "Cut down my trunk and make me a boat, and then you can sail away and be happy." And so the boy cut down her trunk and made a boat and sailed away. And the tree was happy, but not really. After a long time, the boy again came back. And the tree said, "I'm so sorry, boy, but I have nothing left to give you. My apples are gone. And the boy said, well, my teeth are too weak for apples. Tree said, my branches are gone. And the boy said, well, I cannot swing on them anyway. I'm too old to swing on branches. And my trunk is gone, said the tree, so you cannot climb. And the boy said, well, I'm too tired to climb anyway. Well, I'm sorry, sighed the tree. I'm very sorry to hear that you're too tired to climb. I wish I could give you something, but I have nothing left. I'm just an old stump. I'm sorry. Well, the boy said, I don't need very much. Just a quiet place to sit and rest. I'm very tired. Well, said the tree, straightening herself up as much as she could. Well, an old stump is good for sitting and resting. So come, sit down. Sit down and rest. And the boy did, and the tree was happy. Now, honestly, when you look at that story, it sounds like a lopsided relationship. The tree was obviously a doormat and let the boy walk all over her with his demands. You might say, was this a balanced relationship? Well, the tree just kept giving and the boy just kept taking. The tree really, honestly, he had no boundaries, and neither did the boy. Well, as all stories go, along came some guy by the name of Topher Payne who rewrote the ending of the story, entitled it, The Tree Who Set Healthy Boundaries. So I'm going to tell you his side of the story. He changed it up at the point where the boy wanted to build a house. And it went something like this. The tree says, come boy, climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and be happy. And the boy said, I'm too busy to climb trees. I want a house to keep me warm. He said, I want a wife and I want children. And so I need a house. Can you give me a house? The tree said, I have no house. And then the tree said, okay, hold up. And this is already getting out of hand. Look, I was fine with giving you the apples to help you get on your feet. They'll grow back next season anyway, but I'm not giving you a house. I've seen boys like you pull this nonsense with other trees in the forest. First it's the apples, then the branches, then the trunk, and before you know it, that mighty beautiful tree is just a sad little stump. Well, look here, boy, I love you like family, but I am not going down like that. And while we're on the subject, the tree said, grabbing him by the collar, lovingly grabbing him by the collar of his shirt. The tree said, I recognize our friendship, friendships do evolve over time. And we may not see each other as often because you don't have time for your tree friends, but we used to be real tight. And now it feels like I only see you when you need something. How do you think that makes me feel? The boy took a long, deep breath, and he felt a little sour rumble in his stomach because he realized he hadn't considered his friend's feelings. Well, I bet it makes you feel sad, said the boy. Yes, boy, pretty bad. I can't even remember the last time you asked me how I'm doing. Well, how are you, tree? Asked the boy, and he sincerely at this point wanted to know. So the tree told the boy all the gossip from the forest and introduced him to the family of red squirrels that had moved into her trunk. And while she was glad for the company of the squirrels that they provided her, she was concerned about the long-term health effects of hosting a burrow in her trunk. So the boy called the local arborist, who explained to him that squirrels don't eat wood, they only build nests in pre-existing holes, saying that the tree was no longer in any danger. Well, the tree was relieved to learn, and the boy was relieved to learn that this was so, because he loved his friend and he was concerned about her long-term health, because she taught him the importance of empathy. And so it continued that the tree and the boy began to look out for each other. And they were both content in the knowledge that someone had their back. After that honest conversation, the boy attended culinary school. The tree took courses online and got her certification in small business management. And they collaborated. They did their homework together nearly every day. The boy became a pastry chef, and together they opened a bakery selling the best apple pies anyone had ever tasted. It turned a profit in the first 18 months, which is most unusual and most uncommon for a business. But eventually, the boy had a son of his own, and much later, the son of the boy had his own family too. Because of their friendship, the boy was successful and fulfilled, and the tree grew wider and stronger, standing tall and beautiful in the forest for many, many years. Plus a few years, even more than that, and as each generation played in her strong old branches, the tree often thought back to that fateful day when the boy had asked her for a house. Now, in truth, she would have gladly given him her branches to build one, and she would have given him her trunk to build a boat. She loved him that much. But then she would have had nothing left, not for herself or anyone else. And there never would have been a home for the red squirrels. There would have never been no hide and seek with the boy's grandchildren, no bakery with the best apple pies that anyone had ever tasted. See, setting healthy boundaries is a very important part of giving. It assures you always have something left to give. And so the tree was happy. Everyone was where they were. The end. To me, those two stories demonstrate better than any other words I could ever explain the importance of setting boundaries. The tree was able to stand tall and flourish, standing in her personal truth and power. She was empowered to speak her truth, telling the boy how she felt, all done with love, honor, and respect. And the boy learned a very valuable lesson about empathy and compassion. It's not all about making demands on others and stepping on them to get what you want. Together, they built a bridge. They shared a heart-to-heart conversation. They rewrote the story of the future and created a brighter world. And we do have a reading by our reader. So I don't know who our reader is, but if you would kindly come forward with our reading for the day.
I'm doing the reading, Reverend Teresa.
Thank you, Linda.
The reading is taken from the website Science of People, How to Set Boundaries. Why do we need boundaries? Personal boundaries are at the root of a fulfilled, balanced life. Without them, people can quickly lose themselves in their work, relationships, familiar obligations, or service to others. They can even wind up being exploited or taken advantage of by people who do not respect them. These borders help define what you are willing to say yes to and what you decide to say no to. They give you a sense of agency and sovereignty over your decisions. Like an internal compass, boundaries can all start with a gut feeling that tells you when you have the time or energy to devote to something versus when you need to say no. Good boundaries free you to live life on your terms. Openly communicate your boundaries. One of the biggest mistakes people make is setting boundaries in their minds, but not openly sharing them with the people in their life. Sometimes people assume that you should know their boundaries. But if they didn't clearly communicate where they've drawn the line, how will you know when you've overstepped it? This can seem daunting and scary, but it can feel like a significant relief once you get it out of the way. As social psychology researcher Brene Brown says, clear is kind, unclear is unkind. Once you know your boundaries, you have to communicate them. Take a deep breath, gather your resolve, and assertively express your needs in a kind, direct way. To find out how you can effectively set boundaries, go to. And so it is. I believe we have a song now.
Yeah, we do have a song coming up, but I do want to reiterate that clarity is king in setting boundaries. It's important for you to be very, very clear. And I chose this song. It's like Spirit spoke to me. It's called Way Over Yonder by Carole King. And just listen very closely to the lyrics. And maybe it'll speak to you about setting boundaries, because we're bound. That's where we're bound, to set boundaries. And besides, the music's really good. So let's go ahead and listen to this Carole King song. Good song, huh? Yeah, awesome. You know, Spirit really spoke to me when I looked at the title of this lesson. I'm like, oh my God, because, you know, when we build boundaries, that's where we find the sweet tasting good life. It's when you get there, you'll be clear and the sun is shining, it's light for you to know who you are, and it allows others to see who you are. And all of your troubles can leave you behind with that honesty. We don't have to hide or cower. We can step out into our truth. And then you'll be in the peace of mind where you can stand up proudly in your divinity. And you've entered the garden of wisdom, to the land, to the land where the honey runs, right? Yonder, the land of our divinity, right here and right now. So I invite you to take this action. It's wise to teach others how to be with us. How will others know how to treat us if we do not let them know? And if we are waiting to see if they will respect what we believe they should have known all along, we're playing a game. We're playing that sabotage game. We're playing that blame game. Share your boundaries. Once we know our boundaries, it is an act of love to share them with others. It invites them to understand us better, and it communicates the way to it communicates heart to heart, the way for them to know. When boundaries do get crossed, that's when we can have a heart-to-heart conversation to reconcile. You know, you kind of stepped on me a little bit back there. You kind of did. If we remain quiet when a boundary has been crossed, it matters to us. Our hearts will put up that wall. We'll remain separate. We'll feel bad, and then we'll judge. We will inwardly be judging the other person, pointing our finger at them, and maybe even go behind their back and tell others how they crossed our path. If we don't share our boundaries, it cuts us off from feeling compassion for them. And how can we honestly love someone who we feel has been using us? Authenticity is a practice, though. It may not come easy, especially if we've never done it before. So be gentle with yourself. But start today. Start today. Think about your boundaries. Think about if someone had crossed your boundaries, and then build that bridge. Go out there and Be that fearless bridge builder. Let them know how you felt about them. And you might want to forgive yourself and forgive others for being perfectly imperfect, right? Nobody's perfect. But loving yourselves and others takes bravery and it takes clarity. You need to know this is what I will or will not do. This is what I will or will not accept or tolerate. This will build bridges of connection. It is an act of living out loud. Taste that sweet, tasting good life. Enter the garden of wisdom. Share your light and let others see who you are. Do it today. We're going to go ahead and close with a prayer, a treatment. So if you'll bow your head, if you so please, and take some nice deep cleansing breaths, maybe place your feet on the floor, uncross your arms, your legs, and just be receptive, fully receptive in this moment. And breathing in and breathing out, allowing the law of circulation to move through you, every cell of your body, bringing that good life force energy in, known as oxygen. And knowing that there is only one mind, one divine source that is the source of all things created. And I know that this divine source is my source, is the source of life and the source of all things around me. That this divine goodness operates in, around, and as all beings, animate and inanimate. That this goodness encircles and embraces all who are here in the sanctuary and in the Zoom room. And it is good. It is very good. And in knowing this good, I proclaim and affirm the releasing of those patterns of thought, attitudes, and actions that act as barriers in the minds and the hearts of all the beautiful divine emanations of the Most High. Right here and right now, releasing and letting go anything that holds anyone back within the consciousness. And knowing that power is found in stating our personal truth with love and compassion, and as individualized divine emanations of the Most High, we, me, myself, and I stand and have the courage to let the light shine, revealing wholeness, prosperity, love, and joy, peace of mind, revealing the oneness as one divine family we call the human race. Humans, each and every one of us, giving and receiving, knowing the truth, choosing to see only good. Choosing to see only good is the process of creating more good. I see all beings empowered, being the authentic self, giving and receiving in balanced relationships where there is harmony and understanding. I see this, I feel this, and I know it to be true. For it is in declaring this that it is so. And in knowing this, I give thanks for this knowing this. I give thanks for each divine emanation who steps willingly into their light so that we can see, so that they can be seen and known for who they are as the beautiful divine ones showing up as they are. And I gladly share my boundaries and I build bridges to authentically connect with others. I know this to be true for me as I know it to be true for all, for there is only one. And so I release my words to the law, knowing this is done in the mind of God. And together we say, and so it is. And I believe we have some announcements.
The announcements. Can the ushers come forth, please? Do we have any announcements?
I know we have a
I can,
podcast to announce.
Yes, I can think of two. One is the Keys of Wisdom class. Will be restarting, I think, on April 5th. I'm not sure the time. That's one.
I think it's 6:30 in the evening Eastern Standard Time, I believe. Or maybe it's at 1 in the
I
afternoon.
think it's at one. It's at one.
1,
That's-
thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the other, the Visionary Finance Committee has sent out surveys. So those that may have not gotten them back to the Visionary Committee, if you could do so. They had 2 questions on there. So if you can get those back, we would appreciate that also. Okay. And now we'll prepare for our benediction. There's nothing else. Let's close our eyes and go within. Come centered. Take a deep breath. Father, Mother God, I give thanks for this morning's service, with all the participants, and for today's message and the messenger, Reverend Teresa Slusher. For it has been a blessing to our spirits, to our hearts, and to our minds. We especially thank Reverend Teresa for the beautiful story about the trees, such an empowering story, an amazing story, and thought-provoking also. And as we leave today's service, we go forth knowing, Knowing, knowing that boundaries do build bridges, and it's up to us to set those boundaries. We know we are divinely guided, guarded, protected, and blessed. And so it is. Amen, amen, amen. This concludes our service. Thanks everyone for coming. Be blessed. Thank you.